In the cracked parking lot behind Edison High, a quiet, undersized teen was about to face 3 sneering upperclassmen. What started as a walk home from detention took a shocking turn when they came face to face with fists, jeers, and an old grudge. Jayden Torres wasn't your typical sophomore loner. For 5 years, he had trained in silence at his uncle's underground gym, known for the brutal discipline of its fighters and Jayden's lightning-fast reflexes. When he encountered a cornered freshman being shoved around by bullies, Jayden had no idea he was stepping into a moment that would shatter everything. He didn't flinch, he pivoted. That single motion would lead to a ripple effect that tore through the school's fragile social hierarchy. What began as another humiliating afternoon for the quiet kid would become the origin of an unexpected legend. The Edison High student body would never be the same after witnessing what real strength looks like when it wears no armor and refuses to stay silent. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from and if this story touches you. Make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The snow was dirty in Chicago. It piled along the curbs in frozen crusts like forgotten memories, half melted and blackened with road soot. Jaylen Carter stepped off the CTA bus with his hood up and his backpack slung over one shoulder, his fingers tucked into the sleeves of his oversized hoodie. Ironwood High loomed ahead, an aging building with weathered red brick, half-flickering lights over the front entrance, and a sagging fence lining the snow-packed sidewalk. It looked tired. Jaylen could relate. His boots crunched through the slush. As he crossed into the main courtyard, students milled about in heavy coats, hoodies, and sneakers already wet from the salt-stained ground. Conversations buzzed all around him about basketball, cafeteria pizza, someone who got caught vaping in the locker room, but none of it included him. He kept his head down, sketchbook hugged tight to his chest. Pages bent slightly from the cold, the edges worn from days of being flipped, erased, and reimagined. Inside, Ironwood wasn't much better. Flickering lights, yellowing tile floors, and lockers scented like they'd taken too many punches. The air smelled like bleach and cafeteria grease. Jaylen was directed to the main office, then handed a schedule with indifferent efficiency. Carter, Jaylen. You'll find all your classes in the West Wing. Miss Santiago's your art teacher. And don't forget your locker number. He didn't answer, just nodded and slid the paper into his pocket. 3rd period. Art. Ms. Santiago's room was a colorful, cluttered haven buried in a gray corridor. Posters of Frida Kahlo and Basquiat hung, alongside student drawings of neon skulls, butterflies, and graffiti tags. Jaylen hesitated in the doorway. You must be Jaylen, Miss Santiago said, her voice calm and warm like a mug of tea. She had paint on her jeans and rings on every finger. You're not late. Just new. There's a difference. Come in. He nodded, again, easing into a seat near the window. The room was warmer than the hallways, the radiator hissing gently. His fingers found a pencil and flipped open his sketchbook. That yours? Ms. Santiago asked, pointing to the book. He paused, then turned it slightly so she could see a pencil drawing of 2 hands, one gloved in boxing wraps, the other open. Fingers splayed, her brow lifted, impressed. That's powerful. You planning to submit something for the winter showcase? He shook his head. Well, keep drawing, she said. I can't make you share, but I can make you feel like you might want to. For the first time, the corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. In the hallway after class, the tide of students surged around him. Jaylen kept his shoulders tucked in, moving like water on stone, when someone bumped into him hard. Yo, watch it, Sketchboy, came a voice laced with performative charm. Jaylen staggered slightly but didn't look up. He recognized the tone before he saw the face. The type who needed attention like a drug. Travis McConnell. Tall, blonde, blue, varsity jacket over designer jeans, flanked by 2 shadows, A barrel-chested guy with a buzz cut and a lankier one with a smirk too quick to be sincere. Jayden didn't react. Just kept walking. That kid's from Detroit, right? Travis said behind him, loud enough to be heard. Probably thinks he's tough. Jayden's jaw tightened, but his steps didn't falter. Bet he got expelled or something. Should have stayed up there with the other thugs. The words didn't sting the way they were meant to. Jayden had heard worse. Still, his sketchbook felt heavier in his arms. Biology, 4th period. "You're Jayden?" asked a wiry Asian kid with round glasses and a NASA hoodie, already seated at the lab table. "I'm Miles. Looks like we're lab partners." "Don't worry, I don't blow stuff up. Not anymore." Jayden offered a short nod. "You don't talk much, huh?" Another shrug. Miles studied him a moment. "I saw what Travis did. Total tool. He's like a cartoon jock. Just ignore him." Jayden didn't say anything, but when he reached into his bag, he winced slightly, his ribs still sore from that shoulder bump. Miles caught the flinch. His eyes narrowed. Not fear, he thought. Reflex. Like a coiled spring. Like a fighter holding back. Lunch. Jaylen. Ate alone in the far corner of the cafeteria, back to the wall. His tray untouched. His pencil moving in slow, precise arcs across the page. Across the room. Travis threw a grape at someone's head and laughed like it was the funniest thing in the world. "Who's the new kid again?" someone asked. "Some transfer from Detroit," Travis said. "He doesn't talk, just draws. Probably some freak." "Eric." Von Tank chuckled beside him. "He ain't even looked at us." "That's what makes it fun," Travis said, eyes glinting. "He thinks if he ignores us, we'll leave him alone." He stood up and made a show of stretching. "Let's fix that." But before he could move, the bell rang. Jayden closed his sketchbook. One drawing still fresh, a pair of eyes wide with rage. Looking back from the page, his own, back at his locker after school, Jayden moved quickly. The halls were quieter now, the chaos tapering off. His locker creaked open with resistance. Books. Stacked like bricks. A folded paper fell out, a printed schedule. Someone had drawn a crude sketch on the back. A stick figure with X's for eyes and boxing gloves too big for its body. Underneath, the words, "Code in art class." Jayden didn't flinch. He folded the paper once, then again, and stuffed it into his pocket. His fingers trembled slightly. He curled them into a fist. Don't single quotes to dot. He breathed through his nose. "Let it go." True strength, Malik's voice echoed in his mind, is knowing when not to throw the punch. He slammed the locker shut. Outside, snow had begun to fall again, soft and relentless. Later that night, in his small bedroom above a corner convenience store his mom worked at part-time, Jayden sat cross-legged on the floor. His sketchbook lay open on the rug. The page stared back at him. He was drawing Malik again, eyes clear, gloves up, chin high. "You were never afraid," Jayden whispered. "Even when you should have been." His pencil moved slower now. "But I'm not you." Outside, a siren wailed. Inside, Jayden stared at the figure he had drawn. He wondered if it was still him. Jayden's second week at Ironwood was worse than the first. By Monday morning, the hallways had turned into a theater of mockery. Every step he took seemed choreographed for humiliation. Students nudged each other when he passed, whispering. Someone had taken a picture of him hunched over his sketchbook in the cafeteria and added cartoon boxing gloves and a pacifier in Photoshop. The edited image was taped to his locker by 3rd period. He stared at it for a long second, then peeled it off. He folded it quietly and shoved it in his backpack alongside a growing collection of other cruel artifacts. He never responded. Not with words, not with fists. He simply turned away and kept walking. But every turn of the hallway began to feel like walking through. CROSSHAIRS. Tuesday. Miss Santiago noticed the change before anyone else. She always did. Jayden sat in his usual seat by the window, but his pencil movements were sharper now. Jagged lines. Dark shading. Less of the fluid anatomy studies she'd seen before. Instead, his page showed a clenched fist shattering a mirror. She approached slowly. "That's intense," she said gently. He didn't respond. "You know, when I was your age, I used to draw fire all the time. Walls burning, trees split by lightning. It wasn't really about the flames. It was about what I couldn't say." Jayden's pencil paused. "You don't have to talk. Just know I see you." His hand relaxed slightly, but the fire didn't stop burning inside him. Wednesday. Cafeteria.Jaylen balanced his tray in one hand and his sketchbook in the other, navigating the loud, chaotic cafeteria like a ghost. He found his usual table in the far corner and slid into the seat, keeping his back to the wall. He'd just started sketching when he felt the tray get knocked from his hand. The crash was sharp. Milk spilled, fruit rolled, and the spaghetti landed squarely in his lap. The table erupted in laughter. "Oops," Travis grinned. "Didn't see you there, champ." Jayden stood slowly, the front of his hoodie soaked and his pants dripping. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. His silence only made it funnier for them. "Yo, Tank, help him clean it up." Travis laughed. Tank smirked, but hesitated. Jayden met his eyes for just a second, calm, unwavering. Tank looked away first. Miles saw it all from a few tables away. He stood quickly, crossing over as Jayden bent to pick up his tray. "Hey," Miles said sharply, facing Travis. "Back off." Travis raised an eyebrow. "Didn't realize Sketchboy had a sidekick. And I didn't realize you peaked in 9th grade." Miles snapped. The laughter shifted, tone less confident, more shocked. Travis stepped forward. "You want to go too, Four Eyes?" He shoved Miles in the chest hard. Jayden's hands clenched, not in fists, in restraint. Every muscle in his back burned, but he didn't move. He helped Miles up, picked up his sketchbook, and walked away, milk trailing behind him. That night, he sat on the edge of his bed and stared at his knuckles. Then, slowly he stood. He pulled on a hoodie, grabbed his gloves, and left the apartment. There was an old gym on the south side, tucked between a laundromat and a shuttered car wash. It didn't have a name anymore. Just a red door with a cracked window and a buzzer. That hadn't worked in years. Jayden pushed it open and stepped into the heat and scent of sweat, rubber, and something metallic in the air. The kind of place where ghosts lived in the ropes. He didn't talk to anyone. Just wrapped his hands in silence, slid on the gloves, and found an empty, heavy bag. He didn't throw hard punches. Not yet. Just movement, breathing, rhythm. Jab, step, jab, cross, slip, move. By the third round, the sweat soaked through his hoodie. His chest rose and fell like an old piston engine. Every exhale was measured, every strike controlled, and still he heard Malik. "Fighting is math," his brother had said once. "It's angles and timing, but control is everything. You can know the math and still get knocked out if you lose your head." Jayden stopped, gloves resting against the bag. His reflection in the cracked mirror looked older than 16. Tired, tight-jawed, he unlaced his gloves slowly, unwrapping the tension from his knuckles. He hadn't thrown a punch in almost a year, but his body still remembered. That night, the dream came again. Malik's laugh echoed through the empty gym. The air was thick with heat and music, and the rhythmic slap of jump ropes against rubber floors. "Loosen your shoulders," Malik grinned, his gloves slung around his neck. "You're too stiff. The punch should feel like a song." Jayden smiled in. The dream. Then, it changed. Gunshots. Running. Blood. Malik lying still on the pavement, eyes wide, chest unmoving. Jayle, and woke up with a start. Breath caught in his throat. He clenched the blanket in his fists until his arms ached. He whispered the words again, never in anger. But the anger was there, growing. Waiting. Thursday, Coach Ramirez stopped him after gym class. "Carter." Jayden looked up. Ramirez was a block of a man mid-50s with a thick scar across one eyebrow and a whistle that never left his neck. "You ever boxed before?" Jayden froze. "No." Ramirez studied him. "Funny, you move like someone who knows where his feet are." Jayden didn't answer. "We've got a club, nothing fancy. Just kids who like to move, hit pads, learn to control it. You should stop by." Jayden turned away. "I don't fight." Ramirez called after him. "That's the thing about fighters. Most of the real ones never want to." Friday, Jayden sat at his locker, sketchbook open across his knees. The drawing was sharp, angry Moloch in gloves again, but this time with storm clouds behind him. His eyes weren't calm, they were warning. He didn't hear Travis approach. Just felt the silence shift. A hand reached down, snatched the sketchbook. "Let's see what our little champ's been doodling this time." Jayden stood so fast his chair screeched back. Travis held the sketchbook up like a trophy. "Oh, scary. Gonna draw me a black eye, Carter?" Jayden reached forward. Slowly. "Give it back." His voice was steady. The first time he'd spoken to Travis, Travis's eyes lit up. Well, he speaks." Jayden didn't move. Travis handed it over, but not before dragging a finger through one of the pages. Smudging the drawing with deliberate malice, Jayden took the book, didn't blink, didn't flinch, but that night, he punched the wall, not hard, just enough to leave a cracked dot. By Monday, Ironwood High was colder than usual. Outside, the wind howled through bare branches, slamming into windows with gusts sharp enough to rattle them. Inside, Jayden Carter moved like a shadow, soaked in silence, his presence barely acknowledged. Beyond the cruel glances and snickers that trailed behind him. It was just another day. Until it wasn't. It started at lunch. Jaylen entered the cafeteria, tray in hand, sketchbook tucked safely under one arm. He'd learned to keep it with him at all times now, never trusting what might happen if it was left unattended. He scanned the far corner where he usually sat, but someone was already there. 3 someones. Travis, Tank, and one of the newer additions to the crew. Dre, a wiry kid with twitchy hands and a loud mouth, occupied the table, sprawled out like kings holding court. Travis's grin spread wide when he saw Jayden. "Hey, look who finally showed up," he called. "We warmed your seat." Jayden turned without replying, heading to another table near the trash bins. He didn't get 5 steps before Tank moved into his path. "What's up, Sketch? Tray looks a little full. Want us to lighten it?" Jayden's grip tightened, but he said nothing. Didn't break stride. Just stepped around him. "Yo," Travis called again, louder. "You deaf or just slow?" "We said. We saved your table. Come on, sit with the boys. We want to see your sketches." The moment slowed. Jayden stopped. His back was still turned to them. Students nearby paused mid-bite. Mid-conversation. He turned, just a little enough to glance over his shoulder. Travis stood, grinning, arms out like a showman. And then, like it had been rehearsed, Tank stepped forward and slammed both hands into Jayden's back. Jayden pitched forward, the tray flying from his hands. Milk, chicken nuggets, mashed potatoes. All of it exploded across the floor and across Jayden himself as he fell chest first into the mess, skidding on the linoleum as laughter roared around him. Gasps, phones out, laughter peaking. He was soaked. Again, he didn't move right away. Just knelt in the slush of food and spilled drink, fists clenched on the tile. His sketchbook had landed open, face down. The laughter didn't stop. And then something snapped, not loud, not obvious, but inward. Like a wire pulled too tight, finally giving out. Jayden stood. Slowly. Deliberately. His soaked hoodie dripped, sleeves hanging heavy, his expression unreadable. He picked up the sketchbook, closed it gently, walked out of the cafeteria without a word. Bathroom mirror was cracked. Jayden stood staring at his reflection, face flushed not from embarrassment, but from restraint. The spaghetti stain across his hoodie clung like war paint. He washed his hands slowly. His breath came in sharp bursts. Then, without warning, he slammed his right fist into the tile wall beside the mirror. A hairline fracture spidered out from the impact. His knuckles split slightly, just enough to sting. He didn't flinch. He stared at the blood as it beaded, let it drip, then washed it away. Coach Ramirez saw him later that afternoon in the gym, just as classes ended. Jayden was alone, hunched over on the bleachers with his hoodie pulled halfway over his face, sketchbook in his lap, bandaged hand cradled in his sleeve. Ramirez approached slowly. "Rough day?" Jayden didn't answer. Ramirez sat down beside him, sighing. "I heard about lunch. You all right?" Jayden flipped a page in his sketchbook. Ramirez noticed the drawing. A boy in boxing wraps, fists at his sides, surrounded by dark silhouettes. The caption beneath it, "Holding back doesn't mean I'm weak." "You got hands," Ramirez said quietly. "But that's not what scares them. It's that you haven't used them, yet." Jayden's gaze flicked up. "You still thinking about the club?" Jayden hesitated, then shook his head. "Why not?" "I'm not trying to fight," he said finally. His voice was hoarse from disuse. Ramirez leaned forward, elbows on knees. "There's a difference between fighting and defending your space. You keep folding in on yourself like this, you're gonna disappear." Jayden looked down at his sketchbook. "That's the point." Ramirez stood. "No, that's the fear. Come by. When you're ready, doors open." In biology the next day, Miles sat beside Jayden, arms crossed. "They're saying it was the funniest thing all week," he muttered. "Like dumping someone's lunch on them is comedy now. Bunch of cowards." Jayden kept his eyes on the fraud diagram in front of them. "You ever think about fighting back?" Jayden paused, then said, "Too much, so why don't you?" Jayden looked over at him, and for a moment, the facade slipped. "Because the moment I do, I'm not that kid anymore." Miles blinked. "What kid?" "The one who walked away. The one Malik told me to be." Miles didn't push, just nodded. "Well, if you ever change your mind, I've got your back. Might not be much, but I'm scrappy." Jayden smiled, barely, but it was real. That night, Jayden's dreams returned, but this time, they weren't about Malik's death. They were about his last tournament. The crowd, the adrenaline, the perfect hook that ended the match. Malik hugging him afterward, whispering something only he could hear. "You've got control like I never had. Promise me you'll keep it. Promise me." In the dream, Jayden promised. Then, woke up shaking, he reached for the sketchbook, opened to a blank page. And began to draw. Fists. Not clenched in anger, but raised in focus. Storm brewing behind them. Jayden didn't go to the cafeteria the next day. Instead, he wandered the empty second-floor hallways during lunch period, sketchbook in hand, hoodie up, moving like smoke through the stale air. His stomach growled, but he ignored it. He wasn't in the mood for another tray of humiliation served hot with a side of cell phone videos. He found an empty classroom. Santiago's. The door was unlocked. Inside, the warmth welcomed him like a familiar song. Light spilled through tall windows onto cluttered desks and paper-strewn surfaces. Canvases leaned against cabinets. Color lingered in the air. He dropped into a stool and flipped open his sketchbook. The pages were darker now. Charcoal fists, faces contorted in pain. Silhouettes falling backward into nothing. He didn't hear her approach. "You've been drawing differently," Miss Santiago said softly from behind him. Jayden flinched, but didn't close the book. "That's not a bad thing," she added, walking around to sit across from him. He didn't respond. She gestured at one of the pages. A figure, faceless and twisted in shadow, crouched as if bearing some invisible weight. "That one is screaming without making a sound. You know that, right?" Jayden's throat tightened. He stared at the page. "I used to draw knives," she said quietly. "Not real ones, just shapes." Sharp things, broken glass. You'd be amazed what your pencil tells the world even when your mouth won't. He closed the book then, gently. She leaned forward. You ever think about letting someone else carry part of that weight? Even just a piece? Jayden finally looked up. Like who? Miss Santiago smiled sadly. Start with people who don't laugh when you fall. That's a good filter. He let out the faintest chuckle, dry and short. She patted the desk. Stay here as long as you need. Back in biology that afternoon, Miles nudged Jayden with a granola bar under the desk. You didn't eat again, did you? Jayden took it silently, unwrapped it, and nodded his thanks. Just so you know, Miles said under his breath, everyone saw that video, but a lot of us didn't laugh. Jayden's eyebrows rose slightly. Miles shrugged. Some of us know what it's like. Jayden studied him. For the first time, he noticed the faint scar near Miles's left eyebrow. What happened? Locker door, freshman year. My face met it 3 times, courtesy of one of Travis's earlier apprentices. Jayden winced. You fought back? Nah, broke my glasses instead. Jayden nodded, but I did tell my parents. Transferred classes, started sitting with people who didn't suck. That helped. Jayden looked at the desk between them. Don't know if I have people like that. Miles leaned in, mock whispering. You do now, sketch. Jayden chuckled under his breath. Don't call me that. Miles grinned. Sorry, Jay. That better? He nodded. After school, Jayden stayed behind in the art room. Miss Santiago had left a note. Draw what you feel, not what you think. He did. The page filled with color reds and blacks, fists morphing into fire, fire turning into wings. For the first time, the figure in the center wasn't trapped. It was rising. He didn't hear the door open. Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Yo, this where the emotional kids hang out? Jayden turned sharply. It was Travis, alone. No. Dre, no tank, just Travis leaning in the doorway, arms folded. Didn't know art class came with therapy sessions. Should I bring tissues next time? Jayden said nothing. Just turned back to his drawing. You're gonna keep acting like you're better than everyone? Just because you don't talk? Still silence. Travis stepped forward. I saw your little drawing on the locker last week. The one with the gloves, that your brother? Jayden froze. He the reason you think you're too good to swing back? Jayden stood up then, slow and careful. His fists were at his sides, fingers flexing. Get out, he said. Travis smirked. Or what? You gonna draw me to death? Jayden took a step forward. I said get out. There was something in his voice, low and sharp, that even Travis couldn't laugh off. He raised his hands. Relax, man, just talking. No need to cry about it. He turned and walked out, whistling. Jayden sat down, hands trembling. His pencil snapped in his fingers. He looked at the broken graphite dot, then picked up another pencil and kept drawing. That night, his mother knocked on his door. Jayden had barely touched dinner. She held a steaming mug of tea in one hand. You okay, baby? Jayden hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, just drawing. She sat on the edge of the bed. You used to do it with such joy. It's different now. I'm different now. She looked at him quietly. Is it the kids at school? I know. It's hard, I do. But your brother wouldn't want you to lose yourself. Jayden looked up. I haven't. She nodded, handing him the tea. Then don't let them take anything else. She stood. If you ever want to talk, or just not talk and sit in silence, you know where to find me. Jayden managed a half smile. Thanks, Mom. He stayed up late, pages spread across the bed. One drawing stood out. A boy standing in the rain, fists down, head raised. Behind him, lightning struck, but he didn't flinch. Jayden touched the page. It didn't feel like rage anymore. It felt like warning. A storm was coming, and maybe, for once, he wouldn't run from it. It happened on a Thursday. Cold air whipped through the open front doors of Ironwood High, and students were already grumbling about the forecast calling for snow by nightfall. Jayden walked the halls with his usual calm precision, sketchbook tucked safely inside his jacket. He hadn't seen Travis all morning. That alone should have been a warning. Third period passed quietly. In art, Miss Santiago gave him a nod and said nothing, respecting the storm she sensed inside him. In biology, Miles sat beside him like a silent ally. The school felt different that day, like the building itself was holding its breath. It all cracked wide open during fourth period in the main hallway. Jayden had just left the library. He'd finished an anatomy reference sketch and was heading toward his locker when he saw her, Sophia Morales. She was leaning against the wall near the science wing, scrolling on her phone. She smiled when she looked up. "Jayden, right?" He hesitated. Surprised. "Yeah, you're in Santiago's class. I saw your sketches during cleanup last week. That one of the boxer in the storm? Beautiful." He looked down. "Thanks." Sophia's smile was genuine. "Don't let them make you feel invisible. I've been watching. You carry storms in your shoulders." He blinked. "That a compliment?" She laughed, the best kind. Jayden managed a small smile, one that didn't feel like it would crack his face. Open. But then came the interruption. "Travis." "Wow," he said, sauntering over. "You making friends now, Carter?" His tone had an edge, tight and bitter. He stood too close. Jayden stepped slightly in front of Sophia. "Back off, Travis." Travis's jaw twitched. "Didn't know we were letting ghosts flirt with the living." Jayden didn't take the bait. Sophia frowned. "Seriously?" Travis ignored her, zeroing in on Jayden. "You know, I was wondering. That drawing on your locker, your brother, Malik, right?" Jayden stiffened. "He's the one who got himself killed trying to play hero. Must have passed that stupidity down." The hallway went still, miles from farther. Down the corridor, turned. A few other students froze mid-step. Jayden's hand clenched so hard his nails dug into his palm. He said nothing. Instead, he dropped his sketchbook. It landed on the tile, flipping open to a half-finished portrait of Malik, gloves on. Head high. Travis smirked and stomped on it, crushed the page beneath his sneaker. "Oops." Jayden looked down. His shoulders tensed, breath shallow. His fists remained at his sides. "Don't do it," a voice inside him said. "Don't lose yourself." But another part, the part that had been simmering, rose up fast. He bent down, picked up the sketchbook, held it close to his chest. Then looked Travis in the eye and turned away. He walked. Miles caught up with him at the stairwell. "Jayden, are you okay?" That was, "I'm fine. You're not. And it's okay not to be." What he said. Jayden stopped walking. "It's not the words." "Then what is it?" Jayden's voice was quiet. "It's how close I came." He sat in Ms. Santiago's room again during lunch. She wasn't there. That was okay. He spread out the sketchbook, tried to smooth the boot-shaped wrinkle on the portrait. It wouldn't flatten. Jaylen picked up a pencil and drew fists, one clenched, one open. They hovered side by side. He stared at them like they were a question he couldn't answer. By the time the final bell rang, the tension was thick. Students whispered about what Travis had said. Sophia had told a few people. Miles had told more. The story was spreading. Travis, the golden boy, stepping on the memory of a dead brother. But the twist was what made it stick. Jayden didn't hit back. Not yet. That restraint became a rumor of its own. He just stared at him, didn't even flinch. That dude's different. And in the background, Travis fumed, because he could feel it slipping his control. His story, his dominance. So he planned one more shove. After school, back hallway. Students filing out. Jayden went to his locker, headphones in, sketchbook under one arm. Travis approached with dry in tow. No crowd, no backup. Just petty fury. Jaylen saw them coming. He didn't move. Travis shoved him. Hard. Jaylen stumbled into the lockers. His sketchbook hit the ground again, but he didn't fall. This time, he stood straight. Travis stepped closer. Still nothing? Man, you're broken. Jaylen's eyes met his. They were still calm and furious. You want me to hit you, he said. Travis blinked. What? Jaylen stepped forward. You want me to become what you think I am. What you need me to be, so you can feel okay about yourself. Travis's smirk faltered. But I'm not here for your story. Jaylen picked up the sketchbook, turned, and walked away. Travis watched him go. Breath caught somewhere between pride and panic. Because everyone had seen. Everyone. By the end of the day, the hallway had a name. They called it the shove-herd round. The school. Not because Jaylen hit back, but because he didn't. And somehow, that scared them more. Monday began with bitter wind and overcast skies. The kind of cold that sunk into bone and made even the rowdiest students at Ironwood High shuffle through the hallways with hunched shoulders and red ears. Jaylen Carter walked through it all like he always did, quiet, steady, unreadable. But something was different now. Every hallway he entered turned down in volume. Heads turned. Conversations paused. No one tripped him. No one laughed. Even the usual whispers were quiet. Jaylen had walked away from Travis twice, and that restraint had become its own kind of myth. But myths don't last long in high school. By Wednesday, the pushback started. Dude thinks he's Gandhi. You saw that look, right? He's probably just waiting to go psycho. Yeah, he's weird. Like dangerous quiet. Jaylen ignored it. Until he COULDN, single quotes T. It started with his locker. Wednesday morning, he opened it to find everything in disarray. Books ripped from their covers, his extra hoodie soaked in something sticky, and worst of all, a photo. Moloch, torn in half. The top half was taped to the inside of the locker door. The bottom, his gloves, his name, the date of his last fight, was stuffed inside a sandwich bag smeared with mustard. Jaylen stood frozen. The hall spun. For a moment he couldn't breathe. Then he shut the locker. Carefully, deliberately. He walked to class without a word. Lunch. Jaylen sat alone again. Miles hadn't seen him yet. He didn't eat. He didn't draw. He just stared down at the blank page of his sketchbook. Then he felt the bump. A body brushing past him, too close, too intentional. A tray. Travis's tray tilted. A carton of milk toppled. It splashed across Jaylen's back, slow and thick. Cafeteria froze. Jaylen stood up. He turned. Travis smiled. Oops. Jaylen didn't speak. He took a step forward. His hands at his sides. Travis opened his mouth to say something else, but never got the chance, because Jaylen shoved him. Hard. Not wildly. Not with rage. With precision. With balance. Travis stumbled backward into a table. Food flew. A chair clattered to the ground. The silence in the cafeteria became something solid. Jaylen stepped forward again. Travis growled and lunged. He threw a wild punch at Jaylen's face. Jaylen didn't even flinch. He slipped the punch. Sidestepped. Clean. Effortless. And he stopped, fist ready, but he didn't throw it. He let Travis's momentum carry him into the floor. Gasps. Phones out. Jaylen stood over him, then stepped back and sat down. As if nothing had happened. Travis pushed himself up. Red-faced, humiliated. Security arrived. Too late to stop anything. Jaylen didn't resist when they asked him to come with them. He picked up his sketchbook and walked out. Milk still dripping down his back. In the main office, Principal Bryant waited. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes tracked Jaylen like a hawk. Have a seat, Mr. Carter. He did. She tapped a file on the desk. You've been remarkably quiet this semester. And now you're here, with video evidence, no less. Jaylen didn't speak. Do you have anything to say for yourself? A pause. Then, he tore my brother's photo, put it in my locker, said things. Hit me first, but you shoved him. First, I stood up. That's not the same. Bryant studied him for a long moment, then leaned back. You ever trained in martial arts, Jaylen? He said nothing, because that block, that wasn't luck. That was muscle memory. Still, he was silent. You're not in trouble. Not yet. But we will need to talk to your mother. And I will need to investigate the full story. Jaylen nodded. She softened slightly. Why didn't you come forward before? About the bullying. His voice was low. No one ever listens until someone gets hit. Bryant's mouth tightened. That's not how it should be. He looked her in the eye. But it is. Outside the office, Miles was waiting. Dude, that was... did you see how clean that block was? You didn't even hit him. Jaylen shook his head. Didn't have to, Miles grinned. You're like Batman, but with actual skills. Jaylen cracked a small smile. Don't flatter me. Too late. School group chat's already calling you Mayweather in a hoodie. Videos everywhere. Even Tank looked impressed. Jaylen's face shifted. Tank was there. Yeah, didn't lift a finger. Just stood and watched. Then left. Jaylen nodded slowly. He's thinking. That night, Jaylen sat on the floor of his room, the photo of Malik spread out before him. He'd taped it back together. Imperfect, wrinkled, but whole. He stared at it for a long time. Then for the first time in nearly a year, he opened the wooden box under his bed. Inside, hand wraps, gloves, a faded tournament medal. Malik's name etched into the band. Jaylen pulled the gloves into his lap. He didn't cry. He breathed and whispered, I kept the promise, but I'm not hiding anymore. He began wrapping his hands, one loop at a time, tight, controlled, calm, not for anger, for truth. Jaylen Carter walked into the Ironwood High gym the next afternoon with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder and a quiet sense of purpose in his stride. Coach Ramirez had been expecting him. Ramirez didn't say anything at first, just gave a subtle nod, tossed Jaylen a pair of clean wraps, and motioned toward the mats. The after-school boxing club was already in motion, 5 other students circling. The heavy bags, jump ropes slicing the air, and the sharp smack of gloves on pads echoing against the bleachers. Jaylen felt the rhythm of it all, the dance of movement and control. It had been too long, but his muscles hadn't forgotten. He knelt and began wrapping his hands. You know what you're doing, Ramirez said, eyeing him. My brother taught me. He teach you when to use it? Jaylen nodded. That's the part I never forgot. Ramirez's expression softened. Good, because that's what matters. Jaylen moved, like someone returning to a familiar language. Every jab, every slip, every duck each carried with it a memory. Malik correcting his form, shouting encouragement between rounds, laughing when Jaylen's footwork tripped over itself. The bag shook with each strike, but never wildly. Jaylen hit like a chess player moved, strategically, deliberately, never more than needed. Every punch echoed years of discipline. Ramirez circled him. Sharp, clean, balanced. You're not here to prove something, you're here to remember. Jaylen nodded, sweat already gathering at his brow. You ever get in a ring for real? Tournaments, nationals, few regionals. That explains it. Jaylen paused. I promised I'd never fight again outside the ropes. Ramirez crossed his arms. Looks like life didn't keep that same promise. Afterward, Jaylen sat in the locker room, unwrapping his hands slowly. His muscles ached, but it was the good kind. Of pain, the kind that reminded him he was alive. He looked up as someone stepped into the room. Eric Tank Vaughn filled the doorway like a question. He didn't say anything at first, just stood with his backpack slung over one shoulder. Jaylen didn't flinch. Tank finally said, That thing you did to Travis. The way you didn't hit him, that was different. Jayden tilted his head. You expected me to fight? I've seen a lot of people try to act tough. Most just swing wild. You didn't. You waited. You moved like you'd done it before. Jayden said nothing, let the silence stretch. He's losing it, you know, Tank continued. Travis, people don't look at him the same anymore. He's pissed and scared. Jayden raised an eyebrow. Are you? Tank hesitated. I don't know. Maybe. I've never seen someone stand up to him and not crumble, not even try to win. Just control everything. Jayden started retying the raps. Slower this time. You gonna keep training? Tank asked. Yeah. Mind if I watch? Jayden looked at him for a long beat, then nodded. Up to you. Tank gave a quick, uncertain nod and left. Word spread fast. The same students who once laughed now watched Jayden with new eyes, curious, wary, even respectful. He wasn't flashy. He didn't trash talk. He trained, came to school, kept quiet, but he wasn't invisible anymore. Sophia caught up to him after second period on Thursday. Heard about the gym. You're not hiding anymore, Jayden shrugged. Not trying to be seen. Either. Well, too late for that. You kinda broke the internet around here. He gave her a half smile. That bad? She tilted her head. Depends. You still drawing? Yeah. Then you're still you. The rest, let it orbit. After school, the gym felt like sanctuary. Ramirez had set up a few sparring rounds, like contact, just movement. Jayden didn't need to dominate. He needed to move. By the second round, his rhythm had returned. He flowed with his partner, anticipating, reacting, controlling the pace. Tank showed up. Again. Sat on the bleachers. So did Miles, sketchbook in hand, pretending to do homework but clearly watching. Jayden's world was shifting. Later, Ramirez approached him. You ready to spar for real next week? Jayden wiped his face with a towel. Yeah. And you're ready for what comes with that. The school's watching now. Staff starting to ask questions. You okay being seen? Jayden considered it. I think I'm ready to stop hiding, Ramirez smiled. Good, because hiding never helped anybody. The following Monday, Travis skipped school. Rumors flew, detention, suspension, maybe just embarrassed. Jayden didn't care. He trained harder, sharper, more focused. Tank started hitting the bag after practice, imitating Jayden's moves. One day, Jayden corrected his footwork, didn't say much, just motioned. Demonstrated. Tank followed. It was quiet. It was respect. Friday afternoon, Coach Ramirez called for silence. I want to say something before we close out. The boxing clubs circled around. Jayden, Tank, 3 other boys, 2 girls, each sweating, breathing hard, alive in the moment. You don't come here to fight, Ramirez said. You come here to learn control. You come here to know yourself. Out there, he pointed toward the gym door. The world pushes you to react, to explode. Here, you learn to respond. To choose. He looked at Jayden. Some of you already know what it means to walk away. That takes more strength than any punch. And some of you, now to Tank, are just starting to figure that out. He smiled. That's what this place is for. You don't need to be a champion to carry yourself like one. Jayden felt it then. Not pride, not victory. Peace. A rare and precious calm. That night, Jayden sat at his desk, sketchbook open. He wasn't drawing fists. He drew the gym. The ring, the ropes, Ramirez with his arms crossed. Tank at the bag, and in the middle a boy, gloves on. Standing tall, to fight, to be seen, to be whole. Jayden stepped out into the frigid dusk after boxing club. A fresh layer of sweat cooling rapidly beneath his hoodie. The parking lot was mostly empty, just a few scattered cars. The security lights buzzing overhead, and the scuff of his shoes against cracked pavement. He moved with the usual care, shoulders square, eyes alert. Then he heard it. Footsteps. Not just one pair. 3, maybe 4. He turned slowly. Travis emerged from the shadows between the portable classrooms, flanked by Dre and another upperclassman named Shane, built like a linebacker with a mean streak. Their eyes glittered beneath their hoods. "Evening, champ," Travis said, his voice low and mocking. Jayden exhaled once through his nose. Calm. "You looked good in the ring this week," Travis added, stepping closer. "Thought maybe we could test it outside the ropes." Jayden didn't move, didn't speak. Dre chuckled. "What, no audience this time? Just us," Shane growled. "Let's see how fast you move now." Jayden dropped his duffel slowly, deliberately, his hands open. "You sure you want to do this? You think you scare me?" Travis barked. "You think just because you danced around me in the lunchroom, that makes you somebody? You're still just the quiet freak with dead weight for a brother. That was it. No rage. No red mist. Just clarity." Jayden adjusted his stance. Travis charged. Jayden sidestepped the punch and planted a palm into Travis's chest. Not a strike, just a redirection. Travis stumbled sideways. Shane lunged next, fists swinging. Jayden slipped under a haymaker and drove a clean jab into the gut, not full force, but enough to fold him. Dr. He tried to grab him from behind. Jayden spun, caught the arm, and flipped him over his hip, letting him land hard but safe. Travis was back on his feet now, red-faced and roaring. "Fight me." Jayden shook his head. "No." Travis swung again. Jayden ducked and dropped him. One clean body shot. In the liver, not dangerous. Not lethal, but debilitating. Travis collapsed with a gasp, kneeling, choking for air. Then silence. Except it wasn't silence, because phones were out. Students, watching from across the parking lot, had recorded the whole thing. Tank had seen it too. He hadn't stepped in. But he hadn't walked away either. He watched every move, every hesitation, every mercy Jayden gave. Later, he told Miles, that wasn't a fight. That was a lesson. Jayden stood over Travis, calm and steady. He didn't gloat. He didn't smile. He just picked up his bag and walked away. By the time he got home, the video was already up. Jayden Carter Schools, Travis McConnell, again. Thousands of views. Comments pouring in. Reactions split down the middle. Some praised him, called him a hero. Others accused him of being a thug in disguise. Jayden read none of it. He closed his phone, set it aside, and opened his sketchbook. His hands were still shaking. He drew Malik. But this time, Malik wasn't in gloves. He was sitting ringside. Watching. Proud. The next morning, Jayden was called to the office before homeroom. Again. Principal Bryant stood at the window, arms crossed. "We've reviewed the footage." Jayden waited. "I won't lie to you, Jayden. This looks bad. Even controlled violence is still violence." He nodded. "I know, but you didn't strike until provoked. And even then, your restraint is evident." He said nothing. "You're suspended. 2 days, out of school, but no charges. And I'll be speaking to Travis's parents." He nodded again. "Understood." Bryant turned to face him. "I wish you hadn't been put in that position. But I also wish you'd told me sooner what was going on." Jayden looked her in the eye. "You wouldn't have believed me until someone bled." She didn't argue. Outside the office, Sophia waited. 2 days? That's it? Yeah. Well, they should be giving you a trophy, not a punishment. Jayden shook his head. "It's not about the fight. It's about the message." She touched his arm. "And the message is clear. You're not who they thought you were." He gave her a tired smile. "Let's hope that's enough." During his suspension, Jayden trained alone. Ramirez let him into the gym after hours. "Just pads and bags," the coach warned. "No sparring until you're cleared." Jayden didn't argue. Hit the bag with precision. Let the sweat soak into his shirt. Let the weight in his chest drop a little with each strike. Miles stopped by one night, holding a burrito and a new sketchbook. Figured you might need a fresh start. Jaylen opened. The cover, the first page was blank. The second page? A drawing Miles had copied from Jaylen's wall. Malik holding Jaylen's shoulder. Ghost-like, almost glowing. Jaylen swallowed. Thanks. You good? I'm not broken. Didn't say you were. Jaylen offered a fist bump. Miles returned it. When you come back, Miles said, it's gonna be different. You know that, right? Yeah. You ready? Jaylen looked toward the heavy bag. Then at the sketchbook. Then at his own reflection in the glass of the gym doors. Yeah, I am. When Jaylen returned to school, everything had changed. Teachers paused when he entered the room. Students stepped aside in the hallway. Some whispered, some smiled, others looked away. Travis wasn't there. Rumors said his parents pulled him. Talk of private school, legal threats, silence agreements. Jaylen didn't care. He wasn't looking for revenge. Just room to breathe. Coach Ramirez pulled him aside that afternoon. You've earned your place here. That means something. What now? Now? You lead, whether you want to or not. Jaylen nodded. That Friday, after training, Tank stayed behind. He wrapped his hands the way Jaylen showed him. I used to think strength meant punching the hardest, Tank said. Now I think it's about not needing to. Jaylen nodded. That's what Malik always said. He'd be proud. Jaylen looked up. Thanks, Tank hesitated. You ever think about coaching? Jaylen blinked. Me? Yeah, kids need someone who doesn't just talk tough. They need someone who knows. Jaylen looked at the ring. The pads, the ropes. And something clicked. Maybe that was the next fight. Not to win. To guide. That night, Jaylen sat at his desk, a fresh sketchbook in front of him. He drew a boy. But this time, he wasn't alone. Around him were others, Miles, Tank, Ramirez, Sophia. And in the corner, Malik. Smiling. Watching. Jaylen added gloves hanging over the boy's shoulder. Not worn, resting. Because for now, the fight was over. And the healing had begun. The announcement came Monday morning. A school-wide assembly. Mandatory attendance. 11 a.m. in the auditorium. Students groaned and speculated, whispering theories between classes. Most assumed it was about the fight between Jaylen and Travis. Videos were still circulating. The cafeteria showdown, the parking lot ambush. Edits with dramatic music. Memes, replays, commentary. Jaylen walked through the chatter like a ghost present, but distant. He wore his hoodie up and headphones in, though there was no music playing. He didn't need to hear the noise to know what they were saying. By the time students filled the auditorium, the energy was tight and electric. Some people looked bored, others curious. But when Jaylen stepped onto the stage beside Principal Bryant and Coach Ramirez, everything stilled. Whispers vanished. Phones came out. Bryant stepped to the podium. She wore her usual sharp gray blazer and that same look somewhere between exhaustion and authority. Thank you for coming, she began. What I'm about to say may not be easy for some of you to hear, but it needs to be said. She paused. For too long, this school has tolerated a culture of silence, of looking the other way, of letting small acts of cruelty slide until they snowballed into something uglier, and last week we saw where that leads. She turned to Jaylen. Mr. Carter was the target of repeated harassment, intimidation, and physical aggression. This was not isolated. This was ignored. And it nearly became something much worse. Gasps. A few heads turned. Bryant didn't flinch. Jaylen has agreed to speak today. I ask you to listen. Jaylen stepped forward. The lights felt hotter than the gym. The stage stretched endlessly beneath his feet. But his voice, when it came, was steady. My name is Jaylen Carter. I transferred here from Detroit. Most of you didn't know me. Some of you still don't. That's okay. I didn't come here to make noise. I came here to heal. A few students shifted in their seats. My older brother Malik was a boxer. He trained me. He taught me everything I know, not just about jabs and footwork, but about life, about restraint, about never using power to make yourself feel big, only to protect people who can't. Jayden paused. His eyes swept the room. When Malik died trying to protect someone in our old neighborhood, I made a promise. Never throw a punch in anger. Never let grief become violence. I thought if I stayed quiet, if I kept my head down, I'd be safe. I was wrong. He took a breath. Travis McConnell bullied me from my first week here. Not just words. He destroyed my drawings. Trashed my locker. Talked about my dead brother like it was a joke. The school didn't stop him. Now the room really stilled. Jayden's voice dropped, just slightly. No one listened. Until I hit back. Silence. But I'm not here for revenge. I'm not here to be feared. I'm here because too many kids are hiding in bathrooms, skipping class, drawing their pain on paper because no one believes them. I know what that feels like. I won't pretend it's okay. A few students lowered their heads. Others stared at him, transfixed. Don't wait for someone to explode before you ask what broke them. Don't wait for a fight to start before you see someone. He looked over at Coach Ramirez, then at Ms. Santiago, seated in the front row, and to every teacher who looked the other way. Do better. Kids are drowning right in front of you. He stepped back. There was no applause, just stunned silence, and that was louder than any ovation. After the assembly, the school buzzed like a shaken hive. People talked in hushed voices. Teachers huddled in break rooms. Students scrolled through endless reposts of Jayden's speech, and then something unexpected happened. Other students began speaking up. Freshman girl posted anonymously about being bullied by the swim team. Quiet boy from sophomore year sent an email to the counselor, detailing months of verbal abuse from upperclassmen. The dominoes started to fall. Coach Ramirez pushed for weekly check-ins with athletes. Ms. Santiago offered a new elective, art as expression, and filled it by lunch. Principal Bryant launched a restorative justice committee. Jayden didn't join it. He didn't want a title. He wanted space. That Thursday, Jayden was walking through the hall when he saw Travis. Back early, he looked different. Smaller somehow, no entourage, no swagger. Their eyes met. Jaylen stopped. Travis approached slowly. Can I talk to you? Jayden nodded once. They stepped into an empty stairwell. Look, I didn't come to fight, Travis said, hands in his pockets. Jayden raised an eyebrow. Wouldn't go well for you. Travis actually smiled, a broken one. I deserve that. Jayden waited. My dad's a piece of work, Travis began. Always has been. Says crying is for cowards. Says you earn respect by taking it. I guess I believed him. Jayden said nothing. When I saw how people looked at you after the cafeteria, I panicked, because they never looked at me like that. Not even when I won. Jayden's gaze didn't soften, but his voice did. I didn't want you to lose. I just wanted to stop losing myself. Travis looked at the ground. You did. You kept yourself, even when I pushed. Jayden nodded. What now? I'm transferring. Different school. My mom insisted. Jayden looked down the stairwell. Don't waste it. Travis swallowed. I won't. They didn't shake hands, but they parted with something close to understanding. That night, Jayden sat in Miss Santiago's classroom, helping set up for the winter art showcase. The room glowed with soft string lights and the metallic scent of fresh paint. You ready? She asked, handing the last canvas. As I'll ever be. His piece hung in the center of the room. A portrait. Malik in gloves. But behind him, not flames. Not fists, but other students. Miles, Tank, Sophia, Ramirez, Santiago. Each Drawn in detail. Moloch wasn't the whole story anymore, just the beginning. Jayden stood beside the piece as students and parents filtered in. Some nodded at him. Some whispered. But one teacher, Mr. Fellows, the history teacher who'd once laughed when Travis mocked Jayden in class, walked up quiet and shaken. I didn't see it. Jayden didn't look at him. You didn't want to. Fellows nodded. I'm trying now. Jayden turned, then keep trying. Later that evening, Miles found him at the refreshment table. So, you famous now or what? Jayden rolled his eyes. I just want to draw. You can draw and lead, you know. Jayden looked around the room. Students laughing, talking, not whispering about him, just existing. Yeah, he said. I think I can. Miles elbowed him. Told you, Batman. You're never letting that go, are you? Not a chance. Jayden stepped outside for air. Snow had just begun to fall, soft, slow, clean. He looked up at the sky. No noise. Just peace. And somewhere in the stillness, he heard Malik's voice. Told you, real strength isn't fists, it's choice. Jayden smiled. The fight was over. But the story? Just getting started. Ironwood High looked different under fresh snow. It wasn't just the softening of edges, the usual graffiti half covered, the dents in lockers dulled by light, or the quiet that followed the storm of Jalen Carter's story. It was something else. Respect. Unspoken, subtle, earned. Jayden walked through the front doors that Monday morning with his hoodie still up, but his shoulders no longer hunched. He didn't avoid eye contact. He didn't shrink. He moved through the hallway like someone who belonged, because now he did. Miles joined him at his locker. You see the morning announcements? No, you're getting a mention. Art showcase. Leadership spotlight. Ramirez nominated you for the Student Leadership Council. Jayden raised a brow. I told him I wasn't interested. Yeah, and Ramirez said, that's not how leadership works. Jayden chuckled. You okay with it? Miles asked. Jayden considered it, then nodded. I think so. That afternoon, Jayden stopped by the gym. Coach Ramirez was finishing a round with one of the newer boxing club members, a freshman with an oversized mouthguard and wild footwork. Jayden leaned against the ropes, watching. When the round ended, Ramirez waved him over. You're early. Figured I'd help out. Ramirez grinned. Thought you might. They went over warm-ups, shadow boxing drills. Jayden moved like he'd never stopped. The rhythm was back, but there was something different now. He wasn't fighting ghosts anymore. He was guiding others. I was thinking, Ramirez said as they coiled jump ropes at the end of practice. Next semester, I want to start a mentorship track. Older students guiding newer ones. Thought you might be the first. Jayden wiped sweat from his brow. You sure? I'm the right guy? Ramirez looked at him. You walked through fire and never lost your balance. You didn't just fight, you taught people how not to. Yeah, you're the right guy. Jayden nodded slowly. Then yeah, I'll do it. Friday came. Fast, Jayden stood near the front doors, holding a clipboard, checking students in for a winter community night. Ironwood's halls were lit with soft holiday lights, student performances echoing from the auditorium, classrooms transformed into gallery spaces and club exhibits. He hadn't signed up to be in charge, but somehow, there he was. Miles joined him halfway through the night, carrying cocoa and pointing with his chin. Tank's over at the ring toss trying not to look like he's having fun. Jayden laughed. He's terrible at pretending. Says the guy running logistics in a school hoodie. Look at you, Mr. Quiet Kid turned role model. Don't push it. Too late. They walked down the hallway together. Students nodded at Jayden, and teachers smiled in passing. Sophia joined them near the art room, her scarf pulled tight around her neck, cheeks red from the cold. They posted the photos from the showcase, she said. Yours is already in the district newsletter. Jayden blinked. Seriously? She smiled. Yeah, that portrait's got people talking. Especially the way you drew your brother. Not like a fighter. Like a teacher. Jayden looked away for a moment. He was both. Sophia nudged his arm. So are you. As the night wound down, Jayden ducked into Miss Santiago's room. She was alone, putting away paints. I heard about the newsletter, she said without looking up. Malik would be proud. Jayden nodded. I think he'd tell me to stop hiding behind the gloves. You never hid. You protected something sacred. And when the time came, you shared it. He looked around the room. You kept this space open when I needed it. I always will. Thank you. She placed a hand on his shoulder. You're more than what happened to you, Jayden. You always have been. Outside. The first snow of the new year began to fall. Jayden stepped into it slowly, drawing in the cold air like it was permission to begin again. He walked past the school sign. Someone had written across the LED ticker, Ironwood Boxing Club Presents. Student coaches wanted. Strength is in how you use it. He smiled. The fight was never about fists. It was about choice. And now, he chose not to disappear, not to hide, but to lead. That weekend, Jayden's mom framed one of his sketches, the one from the winter showcase, and hung it beside a photo of Malik. It was the first time their names had appeared side by side on a wall. Jayden stood quietly, staring at the two images. One, memory. One, meaning. Weeks passed. Then months. Ironwood changed not overnight, but day by day. The restorative justice committee became more than just a policy. Students began reporting early signs of bullying. Teachers stepped in more often. Miss Santiago's art elective gained a wait list. And the boxing club tripled in size. Jayden became a name people said with respect, not fear, not pity, not silence. Sophia joined the student council. Miles got accepted into an early STEM program. Tank started working with younger boys in the gym, learning to teach, not just strike. And Jayden? He kept drawing. Coach in. Leading. He didn't erase his past. He used it. One sketch at a time. One choice at a time. On the final day before spring break, Principal Bryant pulled him aside. Next year, she said, we're expanding the peer mentor program. I want your input. Jayden blinked. My input? Your voice matters. He thought about that. About what it meant. Then nodded. Okay, I'll help. She smiled. Good. I was hoping you'd say that. As she turned to leave, she paused. Jayden? Yeah? You didn't just survive this year. You changed it. Jayden didn't answer. He just smiled. Later in the quiet of the gym, Jayden sat on the edge of the ring. The gloves were beside him. Not on. Not needed. Miles entered, tossing him a water bottle. You staying late? Yeah, just needed a minute. Miles nodded. You earned it. Jayden looked up at the ceiling. Think Malik would have liked this place? Miles nodded. He'd love it. Jayden picked up the gloves, ran his thumb across the stitching. Then set them down. The bell rang out in the hallway, not for a fight, but for the end of the day. The beginning of something new. And Jayden walked into it. Head high. Story still his. Still growing. Always more than a fighter. Up next, we have two more incredible stories that are waiting for you. Just click the image you want to watch, and it will take you there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. It would mean a lot.